Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's January 16th. This will be our chart lesson today, and the market is really slowed down quite a bit here, just lately, and there's not nearly as many trades today. We had a little bit of a rally early on, and then we just kind of went sideways the rest of the day. I mean, we continued to try to move up. It took a little while to make this new high. Notice how we had this two-tiered channel working up. We really didn't confirm it right here, so I wouldn't even. I mean, you really can't even say. I mean, you can see that midline working up through there is working. You can see the measured distance. So I believe this two-tier channel is valid, but this is where you would look for a confirmation for it to go higher, and it didn't. So that was a sign to tell you something's a little off here, and we just kind of went sideways, and this is really iffy in here when you start going sideways like this. Um, and then finally we had another little rally up to make the new high after the break of this, and then we started selling off after that. Of course, this is all after the 2 o'clock hour. So uh, it just seems like the volatility and all the strong movement is really slowed down. We're moving back up. We're taking back some of the sell-off that we've had, some of the big sell-offs, but it doesn't look real enthusiastic, and the volume's really drying up. So this rally may not last long. It may not be long before we see another sell-off. So unless something changes. But anyway, I'm gonna go through the trades. There's not many today. Um, I've got to be somewhere in about 30 minutes. So I'm gonna try to move on through this a little quicker today since there's not that many trades. I'll move through this quickly and then we'll wrap up today. But it looked like we were going to go into a range and we quickly broke out of it. But notice how we came back and we kind of got back inside of it again before we broke out and then took off higher again. And that's what you want to see when you break out of a range. You want to see it act as support here before it goes higher. And even then, you really want a really good setup. This is an okay setup. I marked it green. The better one was to wait till here. But anyway, let's talk about the trades because I need to get out of here a little early today, and we'll wrap it up. But you can see, I mean, we really spent most of the day trading. Um, Really, from within, you can see this same low is all the way. You could stretch this line all the way across here. So really, from about 26.13, 13.50 to 26.24 is where we spent most of the trading day within that trading range. And it's not one of those real clear ranges where all your bounces are off one level and all your turn downs are off one level. So that makes it more difficult to trade. And sometimes it makes it hard to spot that you're really in a sideways. But when you're swinging back and forth above and below the EMA like that, generally you can trade it both ways. So just keep that in mind. But let's start over here. You had to be patient this morning. I mean, 7 o'clock, we're moving up here. We had this channel working down. There is a little close outside here, but you would still think we'd try to make a new low. But if we go higher here, then you're looking for at least a measured move. It looks like that. So that's what I would have been. Once we started at higher here, that's what I'd be looking for. And you can see we went a little further than that before it sold off. And so this was a good move up, really. But that would have been your near-term target to get a measured leg up. And so when we bounced out of here, I wouldn't take this first entry, even though that's not a bad setup if we were looking for prices to go higher. But you got to be concerned that we may try to test this low again, because that's not a real convincing close outside. And a lot of times when you get a close outside during the during the or the overnight hours, I guess is what I'm trying to say, you can just about ignore it. So it won't really count. So anyway, when we make the failed second entry short right here, and plus it's a second entry long, notice that high first entry, then you pulled back in second entry, it's right off. If you drew this trend line over here and drug it down, it bounces right off of it, right off the EMA. It's exactly where you would expect a bounce to occur, and that's a relatively bullish bar. That's your first really good trade. And if you caught that one, you might catch a runner on that too, depending on your entry and how your bar is set up. But that's a nice move up. Plus, notice this is a new low, so that is a failed second entry short. It is a second entry long. It is a bounce off a key entry point with some confluence there between both the EMA and the trend line. and then we move up, and we actually get a break of this short-term trend line here. But notice that's a new swing low. All those matching lows right there are the same thing as another low, and notice how it went higher. So that is a lower swing low basically there. So your first entry, second entry, it fails, bullish bar right off. And that is right off where the midline would be. And you could have all this in here by now. So that's a good place to enter. It does come back and give you another opportunity, but now you've had your break in a new high, and even though you might get a second leg, it's probably not worth risking anything at that point. So it runs on up, then it does come back to the midline, and you got this little short-term trend coming down, and then you try to make a new low, and there's a little trap right here and a higher low, and it actually breaks lower and turns and goes back. When it went out the other side there, I like going long. And you could have let it break higher above this one. You could have even gone long above that one, but that's a really big bar. So you may let it break higher and drop a limit order back a little bit and see. And it would have come back and filled you exactly where this one got filled. So that would have been another little scalp there. And then, of course, we reversed. There's a failed second entry long right there. And notice how it does come through the midline here. So that's and it broke higher and turned and went down, and that's a failed second entry long. So that's a possibility right there as well, because this is played out, and you would expect prices. The only problem is we never got to the high up here, so you're not sure that it may trap you right here and go higher. But once it starts coming on down, you figure it's coming to here at least. And the fact that we didn't get back up here is a tell that, hey, we may get a break here and we may trend in the other direction, or at least get a bigger correction than just a close outside this main trend line working up through here. So that's a possibility. I probably should have at least marked that green, because if you catch that, that's one of those important traps that, sometimes when you catch them on those reversals, those are, they a lot of times those are major highs or major lows of the day, depending on where it occurs. In this case, you're hoping that maybe it's a major high. It doesn't turn out to be, but it's still a really nice move down. And if you catch that one, you probably can ride this down. But you do get another chance. It comes back to that trend line right here and goes higher and fails and gives you that big bearish bar. I like entering right there because really you got a double test of the EMA, and this one gets back to the trend line. The only problem is it's right here on this low, and that's a really tight one, but you got to assume that maybe this is two-tiered. Turns out maybe it's all the way down here, like so. But you don't know that at the time. You can see that's probably where it's at, and it's really not. That's just something more short term right there. I'll move it back, but so I like that one all the same, because you figure we're coming to here, and it didn't take long, and it just kept going. So you don't want to be entering anywhere down here. It's moved too far and too quickly, and you couldn't tell if this was a big overshoot, or in the end, I really think this is your trend line down here. So I don't think that's an overshoot. But regardless, it bounces, and then it tries to make a new low, and it can't quite make one. But you've tested this once, tested it again. So this is like a double test of. You could just use that one right, this low right here, and this is like a double test. And this is a second entry long, way away from the EMA. So that's another one you probably could argue to be green, but that's probably a little bit aggressive with that big a sell-off, because you may get another leg down. So I'm not crazy about that one, and turns out to be a great move, and you don't get another real chance to enter it until maybe right here when it broke above. Again, this is an inside bar, but that's a second entry long, and we've got a nice strong trend working up here. So you're probably going to at least retest this high, if not make a new high, and you do have enough room to get out before that high. It ends up not mattering because it goes higher, but you really probably want to make sure. And I'm not crazy about these inside bars, so that's the reason I marked this one green, especially when it looked like we were going to have a range setting up here. So this is probably going to be a failure. So when it makes that new high and then makes a lower high, it actually breaks and comes down. I like going short right there. And again, I'm thinking another leg down here, but we just can't do it. And we just end up going into this thing, back into this range. It actually moves a little higher at that point up to here. So you probably want to have that up to here, and then maybe this even moves up a little more too to the midline. You can see that still looks very similar to what we had earlier, except it's just a little bigger range. So once you started getting into all this, you're better off just to stay out. We actually did make this failed second entry long, but before we really had changed a whole lot. And so at that point, you might still be thinking, hey, we're headed down here. So you might enter that one just simply because it's that failed second entry long or reversal pattern. And when it didn't go anywhere, I wouldn't be entering anything else across here. If you've got a nice bullish bar with room to get out maybe, or a nice bearish bar, you've got a possibility here of having enough room. But I mean, we're just making higher lows and higher highs here, so I don't think I want to do that, even though it shoots down. You don't know that. And there's a gap. You probably couldn't have got in that one anyway. It just gaps over, and then it jumps right back, and we're just going sideways. There's a possibility of a long there off that. And that's the thing with ranges. The middle, just always remember, the midline is the most questionable spot. You don't want to get short into it. You don't really want to get short off of it or long off of it. You got to be really careful. This is probably the most dangerous spot. If you do enter, you'd want to bounce off of it where we tested it a few times like that, or a short off the going short, testing it from underneath a few times. But even then, I think it's suspect. So you notice I didn't mark anything. And finally, we push through, pull back first entry, you pull back second entry, and you get a second entry long there, and it confirms this trend line right here moving up. And notice we really confirmed it right here, but I didn't trust it at that point. But when it held again and gave you a second entry long, I like entering there. It's still a little suspect because it's into this resistance, but pushing through there, we probably cleared that out. But you still got to be a little careful about it. And we finally get a bounce here on a failed second entry short. Notice that new low, first entry, second entry. So that's why I like that one. Nice bullish bar. It's right off that key entry point again. The EMA is right behind it. That one looks good, and that's where you go in, and off it goes. And you really don't get another opportunity to enter it. We're just swinging here, and you know this is all. You just kind of got to let this go. If you chase this, you'll probably get burned, and then we sell right off, and you don't really get a chance to go long again for the retest of the high until it's into the 2 o'clock hour, and I just don't see anything there. Even you could look at this as a failed second entry short, but we're still below the EMA, and it's a relatively bullish bar. So that one might be a possibility if it wasn't too late, but this is really a double bottom, so that would be like a first and then second entry short, and that's where you'd probably be better off to wait and go short trying for the retest here. So it just wasn't a great day, and you'll have to excuse me, I'm having a little trouble with my throat. It's a little scratchy as I try to talk here, so I had to pause this a few times because my throat was bothering me. But anyway, like I said, the market slowed down a little bit, not a whole lot going on. Hopefully it'll pick back up. I mean, it's been really nice with all the volatility and all the movement and opportunity to catch some really nice moves and so forth. And this is not a really super quiet market, but you can just see most of the movement was early on, and then really from, I'd say 9:30 on, not much happened. It just wasn't much happening. Maybe it'll pick back up as the week progresses here, though. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up today. We'll be back again tomorrow and wrap up our week. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.